Okay, everybody, you can't see me because that's not the point of all of this. Today we have a huge honour. We're going to speak to Mr. Jim Gardner, US Navy retired, as he was back in the Second World War, actually offshore of the D-Day beaches on the day that that operation was undertaken, but also he has a very interesting story of his own to tell about what happened to his ship, the USS Tide. So hopefully we'll be learning a lot more about that and finding out what happened. So if you don't mind me asking, to start with, how did you end up in the US Navy in the first place?
The country was at draft, and I was raised on the Mississippi River, had a fascination with water, and when I was 17, I was eligible to join. If I would have waited till I got 18, I would have been drafted, and I would probably have been in the Army. So I got my foot in the door before I had very little training. For five weeks in boot camp, and they assigned me to a ship that was being built down in Savannah, Georgia. But while I was waiting for that to be built, the German submarines were raising havoc with our coastal shipping. So the Navy confiscated just about anything that would float and took us kids and made a crew out of it. And my first first boat was a shrimp boat, and then I made one tour on that, and we got into a storm and called it back, and then I got on a more of a yacht. It was the plush boat. It had 7 people on it. We had one ensign, a commissioned officer, and one motor machinist mate, and one boatswain, and 4 boot seamen. We would go out patrolling for 3 days, up and down to Carolina and Georgia coast. We would stand 4-hour watches, two people at a time, one on the driving the boat and one lookout, and we'd do that for two hours, and then switch, and then it'd be the next crew to come on. 4 hours, half 8, 4 hours, and half 8. But it give me a feel of driving a boat, and which is what I did the rest of my career. But when the ship was finally built, and they put it in what they call a shakedown cruise, we went down to Key West, Florida, and then we picked up a convoy going to Casablanca.
Okay.
Well, we took the convoy to Gibraltar, about a 50 ship merchant ships, for the African Italy campaigns, and then we went down to Casablanca, waited for them to form up another convoy, take it back to New York, and then while we was waiting for them to get another, we escorted our coastal from island of Aruba all the way up to Bangor, Maine, tankers and supply ships for the East Coast. Our first trip, let's see, the ship went in commission May the 9th in 43, and by June and July we were in Casablanca, and we got back to New York in August. And then our next trip was in the fall, but we from East Coast of the U.S. to Gibraltar, and then down to Casablanca and back to New York. Now that trip was a winter trip, and we pulled into New York Thanksgiving Day. Ice all over the ship. But then from there we went and down to Caribbean. We was in Cuba Christmas Day, and then we went back up to Charleston, South Carolina, and we left there on, it was in January, probably the end of January, 44, and this time we had a convoy of small craft. And what I don't know what they was going to use them for, still don't. But they was what we call yard tankers and yard tugs, and we took them to Milford Haven, Wales. And there's rumors that they was going to use them up north to make the Germans think we was going to land in the north. But I don't know whether that's true or not. But then from there we got down to Plymouth, and the bigger ships were coming in. Sent us down to Falmouth, and then we wound up in Torquay, which is a beautiful place. And thank God the big ships couldn't get in there, but the little minesweepers could. and we was there until we got orders to get out of the way and form a while we was down there, we did a lot of practice minesweeping practice, and we was there one night when Torquay got bombed. But when we got orders to go, we formed up what they call mine clearance Division A, and it had I think with 11 ships. And on the way across the channel, one of them, the Osprey, hit a mine and sunk. And that's when we went to general quarters. Well, my job was ship control and navigation team. My battle station was the emergency steering engine room. And when the Osprey got hit, it was about 5 o'clock in the evening, or early evening of June 5th. And I was in the engine room, right above the rudders, and I stayed there until the morning of the 7th, I think it was. But they said we could secure from general quarters is then on 4 and off 4. Well, my duty for then was on the bridge, pilot house. And about 10:30, we just pulled in our sweep gear, and I rode it in the log. Being a quartermaster, that was my duty, to keep the log. I took my binoculars and went out behind a house to get a look at the beach, to see what's going on there. And that's when we struck a mine. And I was thrown into the water, catapulted from the bridge. Of the explosion was right under the bridge, and it threw me way up in the air and landed in the water behind the ship.
So you're quite lucky then.
Yes, it was June, but it was cold.
Yeah, the English Channel's never really warm.
But then we got. Let's see. I was talking to one of the other guys. He was on the bow gun, and he got thrown back, and he was pretty close to where I was. Well, I didn't have my life jacket on, but I found there was enough floaty flotsam all over the thing, so I grabbed whatever I could find and I held on to it. And then that PT boat had come and I was the first one they picked up.
That was lucky.
But he picked up several people that was in the water. The Bayfield was right close by, and that was where the generals and admirals was the flagship of the landing. And they was just putting a boat in the water to go over and take a look at the beach and see how they was doing. But instead of going over there, they started picking up people too. And they was the one that took a picture of the tide as it was sinking, and that picture hit the newspapers all over the country and in several books and magazines. Didn't know at the time, but that skipper, that PT boat was the same officer that was rescued General MacArthur in a corregidor in the Philippines.
He got around a bit.
And he got the Medal of Honor for that, and then reassigned from the Philippines to Europe. But we went to a LST that had already dumped his tanks, and they used the tank deck as a triage. I had kicked off about all the clothes I had on me because they was weighting me down. So when I got on there, they gave me a pair of long underwear. I kind of lost track of time and dates because I below deck and didn't have any references.
Yeah.
And we went over to Southampton, and they had a girls' school that they took half of it and made a field hospital out of it.
So you ended up in the field hospital recovering.
The 38th Army Field Hospital in Southampton, England. And I don't know how many days we was there, and then they put us on a train and sent us to Melbourne. They had at least 3 big hospitals in Melbourne already built and staffed. And we stayed there until me and two of my buddies that went all the way from boot camp all the way, and they were operating the minesweeping gear, So when the ship got hit, and I was up on the bridge, I got thrown, and they got dunked. But when the ship settled down again, they were on deck, so they was very instrumental in rescuing a lot of people. We lost so many in that 55th General Hospital in Melbourne. We took a train to Plymouth, where they'd left our records, and from there we got to see a little bit of the British Isles by train, hitchhiking a ride back to the U.S. They didn't provide transportation. They just said to find it. Well, there was about 18 of us, and we went up to Glasgow because the Queen Mary was getting ready to sail. Well, they was already full, couldn't take us. So somebody said there was a ship down at Bristol that was ready to go, and it was a seaplane tender. Well, they didn't have any room for us except they put some cots in the hangar deck, and took us back to Boston.
So did the Navy put you on a new ship when you got back to Boston?
Yes, I got 30 days leave and new sea bag full of clothes. I'd lost everything I owned, and I got reassigned to another brand new ship being built in Cleveland, Ohio, and we took that out of the St. Lawrence River and to the Panama Canal, and went over. But by that time, the war in Europe was just about ended. In fact, it ended on our way across the Pacific, and we went to this little island anchorage area they call Ulithi, and we stayed there for a while, and then we went to Okinawa and some mines there. That East China Sea was loaded with them, and the new ship I got was the Tucon. But when Japan surrendered, we went down to Shanghai, cleared the mines out of the Yangtze and the Huangpu rivers, so they could open that up to commercial shipping again, and then we went back up to Okinawa, and while we was in Okinawa, we went up to Sasebo, Japan, and Nagasaki. And we've seen the destruction of Nagasaki. But by that time, it was almost February of '46, which was my birthday, and that's when my enlistment was up, and what they was obligated to have me back to the United States by that time. So I went back to San Diego.
Did they put you on a ship to go back to San Diego, or did the whole ship go back?
I got on the Swift, which is another minesweeper.
So your war was basically minesweeping.
Well, by that time, I was pretty good at driving them. And being a quartermaster, that was my duty. And while I was in Shanghai, the war being over and all the reserve Navy was being released, and I wasn't 21 years old yet, but I was in charge of the whole navigation department. Senior man, you know.
Mm-hmm. I think you mentioned previously when you for the book that you had two brothers who were in the war.
I had two brothers. John, he was the oldest. He went in the Army in 1939, and he got his training down at Fort Knox, and which is First Armored Division, tanks. Mm-hmm. And then he went to Fort Dix, New Jersey, and then over to North Island, and then down to North Africa. Mm-hmm. And he was in Tunis the same time I was in Casablanca, which is not very far apart.
No.
But we didn't know it. The other brother, George, he was in the CC camp when the war started, Civil Conversation Corps. And he went from there to the Marines, and his first assignment was invasion of Guadalcanal. Mm-hmm. Well, he got wounded there, got patched up in Hawaii. Next battle was Tarawa, and he got his ear shot off there. Back to Hawaii. And the third one was Saipan, and Mariposa was taken to Mary Island. And one thing that a lot of people don't realize, the invasion to Normandy was June the 6th. Mm-hmm. I got hit the June the 7th. June the 15th, they invaded the Mariana Islands. Mm-hmm. My brother George got machine gunned in the hip. My mother got 2 telegrams the same month.
Did he survive being hit?
Yes, we all 3 survived.
Oh, that's very lucky. Well, except for poor old George, it sounds like he was a bit of a fire magnet.
but like I always say, the bravest battle ever fought. Need I tell you where or when? It was not fought on the battlefield. It was fought in the hearts of mothers of men. My mother and my little brother, the ones that survived the war. Mm. Well, my brother's 10 years younger than I. Mm. He just turned 90, and then I'm coming up. I've already been 99. Mm-hmm.
We'll be continuing our interview with Jim Gardner later this month, as he's got a few more interesting details he wanted to share about the nature of what he was doing aboard USS Tide on the 7th of June 1944, as well as what he did in his post-war naval career, because he was in the Navy for almost 2 decades in total, so the majority of his time in the Navy was after the Second World War. Although, as a quick point of note, he was actually present when USS Pennsylvania was torpedoed right at the end of the war. That was something he remembered after we'd wrapped up the interview. So I hope you've enjoyed this first half of the interview with Jim Gardner, and as I say, tune in later this month where we will continue.
That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you have a comment or suggestion for a ship to review, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to comment on the pinned post for dry dock questions.